So now I think we turn in our agenda to some more information about the various commission meetings coming up. And the first one's coming up next month. The Commission on Social Development. We'll hear about that from Veronica. I'll pop it over to you, Veronica. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, and good morning. So when we think about the Commission for Social Development, as Teresa has just told us, we are thinking about a functional commission that has been established for a very long time. And don't ask me why we're only up to CSOC 60 and not 75, because I have not looked that up yet. But it has been meeting almost every year, and certainly every year since the World Summit on Social Development. It's responsible for the social pillar of the UN's work. And I think it is interesting to go back and actually look at the UN Charter and see where it's referred to in the particular elements of both development, social well-being, I think Article 57(1), various articles of the UN Charter. So it is the primary body responsible for social development. And this year, would that the room where we usually meet and the commission meets would be available for us all the time, but it will actually be hybrid with the opening and closing session of CSOC D60 starting on the 7th and ending on the 16th of February. So this, I think what we are very conscious of already, many of us, is the priority theme. And I would like to just trace a little bit the link between the themes of some of the recent commission meetings, because I think it gives us a clue as to how the NGO Commission for Social Development works. For example, this year in February, the priority theme is the inclusive and resilient recovery from COVID-19 for sustainable livelihoods, well-being, and dignity for all, eradicating poverty and hunger in all its forms and dimensions to achieve the 2030 agenda. Now, you will see that there was inkling of this in the last commission, in CSOC 59, in their emerging theme, because there is always an emerging issue that is mentioned. This time, the emerging issue is about national policies and measures implemented by member states to combat hunger and poverty in times of COVID-19 pandemic and beyond. Challenges to get on track towards the full implementation of the 2030 agenda. So we can see how the context is extremely important for this year's commission because we are in the pandemic. Last year, when CSOC D59 met, the focus was on the socially just transition towards sustainable development, but very particularly on the role of digital technologies. And it's interesting to think that that theme was determined as the emerging issue of the previous year, before COVID, and yet it proved to be absolutely essential. And we see last year, the emerging issue did talk about COVID. They identified it at the end of the commission meeting. On the last day, it was finalized, and that laid the groundwork for this year's commission. So just to put us in that historical context, and I had to put in a picture that showed a few of us there in the room when the commission in 2020 dealt with the affordable housing and social protection systems to address homelessness. And I think in there lies a wonderful story of the role of civil society, but I won't go into that right now. What it would normally have looked like, and it did look like 2 years ago, the last major event that took place within the UN building before the lockdown. The year prior to that, just to give you a few glimpses, and the year before that in 2018, and again 2017, where the focus over those years was very much social protection, eradication of poverty to achieve sustainable development for all, addressing inequality. And I like to think that in the formal commission, 3 words are very good to keep in mind that have kept coming up in all the themes of the recent commission meetings on social development. Inequality, integration, inclusion. Those 3 I's are very important to all these recent commission meetings. Who is on the bureau for this particular commission meeting? The chair of that is in continuity with last year, Maria del Carmen Square from Argentina, who was a strong and very effective and very open to civil society last year and has continued to be so. So we have good connections, and that is extremely important during the commission meeting. We have 4 vice chairs from the different regions. And I think it's important to keep that in mind. So you have from Europe, Portugal, you have from Africa, Zambia, you have from Asia, China, and you have Poland from Eastern Europe. So how is the commission formed? Teresa already mentioned the total number, which, by the way, only came into, it was smaller than that until 1995 and the World Summit. But there is definite representation. And these 5 areas, regions of the world, have a certain number of members that are elected by ECOSOC. And at the moment, there are some vacancies. So as you will see, if you're anxious to know who are the countries in this year's Commission on Social Development, you might like to look at this list, which is alphabetical, if you want to zero in on a particular member state that you think might be important for the purposes of advocacy. This is a good indicator. And it shows us those who will be continuing beyond this year, those who will be continuing up until, for example, some of them till 2025, the ones in red, till 2024, the ones in green, 23 in blue. So I think that the membership of that is extremely important. One of the main program aspects, I'm going to say very little about the program for one reason, and in particular, is that we don't know a whole lot about it in detail. And next week, we're going to find all about it. So I would strongly suggest that you put on your program calendar now, next on the 19th at 1:30, the Bureau that we have just seen will be meeting with the NGO committee. And a lot of information will be shared. They will have just shared with member states some of the details of the program. At the moment, there is a skeletal program. I have a page with some helpful links about the commission, and I'm going to not talk about it, but I will slip a link to it into the chat box afterwards. And you can link and have a look at the program. The opening session always is technical in terms of, the election of maybe another chair. Some of these are to be confirmed still, the vice chairs. So when it comes beyond the first day, the opening session, and what's unique about, well, I think it's fairly unique about this commission, is that there is a spot for civil society to speak in the opening session and to have a significant opportunity to present the civil society declaration. Then throughout the week, there will be the sessions, the panels that deal with the priority theme, that deal with the groups, the plans and programs of action about the situation of specific social groups. And those for the Commission on Social Development are youth, the family, the elderly, and people with disabilities. So you will hear the review of the Madrid Plan of Action about aging. You will probably get resolutions about the priority theme. You will get resolutions. Member states from the Commission come together and negotiate during this time of the Commission, and to come up with resolutions that have already probably been worked on partially. And by the end of the Commission meeting on the last day, there will be an acceptance or a voting for those resolutions. The chair usually has summary statements that come out afterwards, and there'll be a report. But I think what is the important area for NGO engagement, and you'll hear more about this later in the morning, the Civil Society Forum. So I'm not going to go into it because I believe someone else will be speaking about it. But last year, that was part of a little presentation, you know, just telling us how that's a great point for interaction, because it attempts to capture the concerns of civil society, to have input at the beginning, and to make specific asks and calls on member states to respond to those issues. This document is already available. It's in social media. There is a link for you to sign up and support it in an individual capacity as an institution, and to send to your networks. Again, they have tended to follow the theme of the main commission. So our opportunity for partnerships is often expressed through side events, through written statements, through oral interventions. That's just one example. And sometimes, and I want to just mention this, although Despina may mention it later, we do tend, and I'm going to just stop sharing there, we do tend to work through our grassroots committee of the subcommittee in order to present and launch publications. That has not been possible these 2 years during it, but the integration of the civil society opportunities for engagement are good in the Commission on Social Development. That's why the number, you know, the opportunities for, I will need to end, I think, but you will hear more about that later in the morning. So I leave it at that. It's a very simple few words about it. I don't know if there's questions, Teresa, and I will put the link in the thing to the links that I'm talking about. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Veronica. We deeply appreciate your time and that wonderful, thorough overview of CSOC-D.